Welcome to The Strategic Edge, the podcast for entrepreneurs and business owners who want a competitive edge in the market. They want to be seen as the expert in their industry, and they're looking for cutting edge and innovative strategies that work across industries to help them scale their business like a boss. My name is Carden, and I'm your host. Welcome to the show. Hey everyone, it's Carden here, and I want to welcome you back to another episode of The Strategic Edge. And you are going to love my guest today, Erin Pheil. She is amazing. She is the founder of the MindFix Group. So I know you are going to get so much value from her today as she works on your mind. She's going to be sharing her tips, and I have seen some incredible things that she has done with people and heard so many of her stories, and I've been following her for a long time. Erin and I actually kind of met or came across each other a couple years ago in a mastermind, and I've been watching her just explode her business ever since. So I'm excited to have you on, Erin. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yes, so tell everyone more about what you do and kind of how you got into this.
Sure. Okay. So what I do, I am founder of the MindFix Group, and we specialize in helping entrepreneurs, high achievers, and leaders get out of their own way. When people are stuck and they can't figure out what's going on, and they don't need another book or a course or a coach or a mentor, and they know that the reason why they're not moving forward is something internal going on inside of them, people come to us and we rapidly identify and then eliminate the biggest mental barriers and internal roadblocks that are holding them back and keeping them from being able to experience the success they know they're capable of and the happiness that they know they want to experience. So when I say like self-sabotage, being stuck, getting in your own way, what that looks like, and when people come to us is when they're experiencing things like perfectionism, procrastination, difficulty setting boundaries or saying no, harsh inner critic, self-doubt, imposter syndrome, things like that, where they want to move forward and they know what they're supposed to do to build their business and experience success and be happy, but it just feels like there's friction or resistance in their way. So we come in, we say, hey, we're going to move the boulders out of your path so you can just take off and do what you know you're capable of.
Fantastic. And I know so many overachievers get in their way all the time, and it stops them right in their tracks, right?
Yeah, it either stops them in their tracks and there's a paralysis, or so many people that I know, entrepreneurs, there's so much drive and fight in them. So even if it doesn't stop them in their tracks, it's as if they're trying to move forward towards their goals, but they're dragging these huge shackles and balls and chains behind them. They're like, I can do this. And they're powering through the resistance and the lack of sleep and the disintegration of their relationships and their health deteriorating. They can do it. They're not stopped in their tracks, but what an exhausting way to live.
And see, I'm so glad we're on video because you get the whole special effect here. Erin is an athlete, so she's a snowboarder and she's a biker. And when I say a biker, she's like a mountain biker. She does all this amazing stuff, so it's fun to watch her. But I just had to point that out. But I said we were going to have fun, so that's good. That's good. No, I think that's really, really powerful stuff. So do people, when they come to you, they kind of know that there's something wrong, or are they kind of skeptical? Like,
Great question. Actually, that's two very different questions. I'll address them separately. So do people typically know what's going on, or that there's something going on, and are they typically skeptical? So I would say nearly 100% of the people that come to us know that there's something going on, even though most of them can't quite put their finger on it. They're experiencing stress, anxiety, resistance, self-sabotage. They know something's not quite right and that it's costing them time and money and energy and sometimes sanity. So they come to us going, this part of my life is not okay anymore. Can we please get rid of it? Honestly, the few people who have come to us and didn't know anything was going on were ones that had been pushed by past clients as referrals, like, here, take my wife, like, here, take my business partner, fix it, fix
that
stuff.
Probably doesn't go well, does it?
No, if you're not aware and deeply frustrated with some part of your life, you're nothing. There's no reason for you. So that's, I would say most people are aware something's off. And then your second question is, are people skeptical?
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that's actually a big challenge for us in our marketing, is when we go out to the world and we're talking to people cold, because what we do is so different.
Mm-hmm.
And we work in the world of transformation instead of change. And we're sitting here coming and telling people the complete opposite of everything they know to be true. Change can happen fast. It doesn't have to be hard. It can happen instantly. You can be totally different in 3 months' time. You don't have to go to therapy, for the rest of your life. All of these things, people are like,
yeah, right. It goes against everything we know, right?
Everything that we know and what we believe to be true. And that's the work we do, is shifting beliefs is nearly impossible. So the people that come to us aren't skeptical are typically the ones through referrals, when they've seen their loved ones or their business partners or their employees or employer have this drastic, radical, incredible life change in a short period of time. And they're like, I want that.
Right.
Then the skepticism has been reduced. But when we go out cold and people haven't seen our 10 miles proof or been introduced to us, the skepticism is real. It is real, and rightfully so. There's a lot of people with big claims out there that they can't follow up on.
Right. But okay, so I've been to her website, and I don't even know how many, probably hundreds of testimonials they have that they really can do. And she's consistently sharing stories, which we know is one of the most powerful ways, for people to believe, right? But it is amazing. But talk about some of those stories. If you can think of some of your best ones, I would love for you to share that.
Oh my gosh, I have I'm like freezing. I have there's so many that are coming to mind that I would love to share. There was a woman that we worked with who, my favorites are the people that are just sitting there right next to all the possibility, and they're insisting that they can't see it. And all we do is kind of pull back the wall and they can just tap into the awesomeness that they can't see. We worked with a woman who had this really big Facebook group, and she was working with a business coach, and she knew what she needed to do. She needed to delegate. She knew she needed to manage her time. She needed to start being vulnerable and going on podcasts and interviews and doing, getting out in media. She had this partnership with Facebook, and all these different things were happening to her, but she was frozen because she couldn't do these things as the next step to grow her business. She had tens of thousands of people following her on Facebook, and she couldn't even bring herself to do a video, a live in the group. Right?
That happens, right?
Just frozen. And yet she knew what she needed to do to get to the next level, to create the consistent income and generate the revenue that she wanted for the consistency and stability for her family. So we came along, we worked with her for a standard program. It was 3 months' time. And by the end, she was saying that she was working, it was something like 30% less. She had tripled her monthly profit, not just revenue, but profit. So she was working less. She had started to build a team and was delegating. She was doing 5 or 6 lives on video a day.
Oh, wow. A day.
She was going live in Target.
Going crazy.
Live from Target, and she was having a great time.
Wow.
She started going around and accepting and saying yes to all of the media opportunities and interviews that she had been presented with, that she had been nervous about and literally procrastinating and not replying on. She was in USA Today and the Washington Post and Entrepreneur,
wow.
sorts of publications. And this was in all of that didn't happen in the 3 months of the program. All of that happened within a few months of her graduating from the program.
Right.
And it was a delight to see someone who showed up on the first day with this list going, I have so much stuff. There's no way we're going to be able to get through everything. I don't even know if the program is enough for me. And we're like, let's do this.
Oh, challenge on, right?
So to see that transformation and to see the happiness it brought and the joy that it brought, and that the ripple impact of how she was then able to have more time with her children and how that improved her happiness because she could reconnect there. And then she had more time off from work. So she was more well rested. So she could do better quality work. And it was just this beautiful upward spiral, right? And that's not just cherry on top, my biggest success story. That's just the first person that popped into my mind. She's such a dear friend now.
So let me ask you something. When she came to you, was the problem or the issue that she had, was it something from the past? Was it, what kind of breakthrough, like what are some of the issues that you help people overcome so that they can have those breakthroughs?
Great question. So what we find is that the reason humans act according to what they believe to be true. At the end of the day, everything comes back to that. So if we are not picking up phone calls, if we're saying no to interviews, if we're refusing to go on video, we're acting a specific way for a specific reason, right? And so what we do is figure out, what is that reason? What are those reasons? And the reasons why we act a certain way is because we have certain feelings. This client I was telling you about, she didn't go on video because she had feelings of anxiety and stress when she would think about doing that. If you, as you can imagine, if she had feelings of excitement and motivation when she thought about doing it, she'd act. She'd have different actions.
Right.
So her emotions of anxiety and stress were keeping her from acting a certain way. Now, her emotions weren't there randomly. Her emotions were there because of what she was thinking. She didn't have anxiety and stress just because. She had anxiety and stress because of the thoughts. And her thoughts were, if I'm not perfect, people will reject me or never want to work with me. If I mess up, I will be punished or rejected. I'm not good enough. I'm actually an imposter. I'm a fake. I'm a fraud. I'm a phony. So all of these thoughts were bubbling up in her awareness and her consciousness every day, which made it so she felt anxiety and fear when she thought about going on video, which ultimately meant her actions were, no video, right? So if we look back, it's like these thoughts are kind of at the beginning of the chain. If she's thinking these thoughts, well, of course she's going to feel that way and act that way. So what can we do? Because you obviously can't control your thoughts. You cannot control like the next, like that there's a thought of a dog or a walrus or a can of Coca-Cola coming up. Like things just bubble into our awareness without our total control. So how do we change the thoughts that were causing her to have these emotions that were causing her not to act? It goes back to what I said at the beginning. We act according to what we believe to be true. So her thoughts of, I'm too scared, this isn't going to work, I can't go on video, those thoughts were simply there because of her beliefs. She truly had these root beliefs of, I'm not good enough. If I make a mistake or fail, I will be rejected. These core beliefs at the bottom were bubbling these thoughts up, which caused her to feel a certain way and act a certain way. So what we do is work backwards from her lack of action on the videos, go back, what emotions, what thoughts, and then we go, what are the beliefs at the root of this?
Right.
And we can change those beliefs. If we have a magic wand, we go, boop, 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 and get rid of those beliefs. So she no longer believes that if she makes a mistake or fails, she'll be rejected. If we get rid of the belief, I'm not good enough, if we get rid of those things, those thoughts no longer bubble up for her. Her emotions and feelings can stay neutral instead of her getting sucked into fear, and she can easily move forward and take any action she wants. So it creates possibility. So that's how we go through and we start with whatever the symptoms and the problems and the blocks are, and we move backwards through the chain and ultimately get to the beliefs.
Reverse engineer, my favorite thing. Oh, let's reverse engineer your business and figure out what you need. I love it. No, those are, gosh, that's really powerful. And how many people probably never think to do those things, or they don't even really know where those beliefs come from, or, how they even transpired, or so they can't fix them. And I want to talk about that because you mentioned that, people think change has to be hard. People think changing their habits and their actions, that's the hard way, you say, to do that. But they think that it has to be hard. So talk a little bit about that, because we do believe that. Like, if you're going to make things happen, you're going to have to put in the work, right?
Yes. Now, if we kind of keep flowing along with this same example, with this same client, in the past, she had experienced change as being difficult. She had worked with coaches and read books about fear of public speaking. She had read all of Brene Brown stuff about being vulnerable and the power of vulnerability. She had taken some assessments and learned about like her delegation style. She had gathered all this information, which said, here's what you need to do. Change your habits. Every day, wake up and the first thing you do is get on a video, push through the fear no matter what. Even if you mess up, publish that video live, right? And so she was trying to do that. But as you can imagine, when you try to take actions, but right behind those actions, you have emotions of fear and anxiety and resistance, and you're thinking bad things are going to happen if you mess up. How do you think you're showing up when you're doing those things?
Right.
Can you push through the resistance and the friction? Sure, you can. You're an awesome entrepreneur with lots of willpower and a drive. You can push through it. You don't show up authentically. You don't enjoy it. It's exhausting, stressful. You're drained before 9 a.m. It's not sustainable. Mm-hmm. And repetition and pushing through fear over and over. It's not like one day you're like, excuse me, it's rare that one day you're suddenly like, you know what, this is great and I love it.
Right.
Because you still have those emotions of fear and you have all of those thoughts about, I'm going to be judged. People aren't going to like it. I messed up. This is not going to be okay. Right. And so you're battling the thoughts and the emotions. Even if you try to keep changing your actions and your habits, it's effort because you haven't changed the pieces underneath. So that's why trying to change your actions, which is what most coaching programs and books encourage you to do, is actually doing things the hard way, which only deepens your belief that change is hard, change has to be difficult, change doesn't last, change doesn't work for me. So you go into things expecting that, and it becomes a vicious cycle of self-sabotage where nothing ever works for you.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's just powerful. And you can get people rapid results, really, really fast results. What's the fastest you've ever had someone?
It's always like the fastest is a tie. It's always one session, like one session in, and somebody comes back.
What do you do with them the rest of the 3 months, Erin?
Oh, no. Like we see incredible. We're humans. There's always work and improvements that can be there. Even if somebody has the best transformation and rapid change and they come back and they're like, you changed my entire life. It's week 2. It's like, let's keep going. There's always more we can do, right?
Cool. That's so cool. So one session, that's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
What's the longest it's taken you to do this, to help someone? And then maybe talk about that a little bit, what that situation was.
I can share recently. I don't do a lot of work anymore with client work, but I did work directly with, what's that?
You don't?
Mm-mm. No, my team does. My team
company. You're the CEO, right?
Yep. But there was a particularly challenging fellow about 4 months ago who came to us, and he was the CEO of a very successful business, but he wanted to sell it for many, 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 many millions of dollars. But in order to do that, he needed to sell his new service and packages first to a number of big companies like Fortune 500 companies. And he had connections at all of them. I mean, this guy was big time. And all he needed to do was start to reach out and do some kind of sales calls to his connections at these companies because they all needed it. They all wanted it. The only thing standing between him and retirement, and a beautiful retirement for his family that he loved more than anything, was him picking up the phone and calling these connections and having a conversation with them, right? He thought he just needed training. So he went to go and I think he tried to get Sandler sales training, and he tried to read a bunch of sales books. And for 2.5 years, he would come in every morning and he would stare at the phone. And just the idea of picking up the phone would literally put him into a near panic attack where he'd have palpitations, start sweating. On occasions, he passed out in his chair. The fear was so,
oh my goodness,
so debilitating. And yet he'd be sitting there crying, going, I need this for my family. I'm so weak. Why can't I pick up the phone like all the other people in the world? What's wrong with me? Right. So he showed up and he's like, I've got this block. And I was like, this is a severe phobia. Not a little block. Right. And so his reactions were so severe and so deep and so physiological and so strong that we had to go very gently and slowly through our processes and peel away layers very carefully. And I mean, if we had done this, I think he would have passed out right in front of me. So we took a very gentle, slow cautious, safe approach. It was all about safety. And it turned out this poor fellow, when he was younger, had been in one of the most horrific, abusive, he had, childhoods that you'd ever heard of, where when he would speak his mind, when he would share things with people, he would get beaten to a pulp, right? And when he would express himself, when he would ask for something, ask for what he wanted or when he would need what he needed, he got kicked out of his home. He went without food. It was so drastic and so severe that the association with asking and speaking up and asking for, let's have a conversation, was just a complete association.
That's crazy. It's amazing he got to the level he did with all of that baggage.
I wondered that myself too, right. But he said it literally had just translated into sales calls. He had everybody else do all the calls previously, but with this big new product and this big new initiative, he had to be the one to use his deep connections. And that's when things started to fall apart, because he couldn't have his salespeople just call some of the
that's amazing.
But that took a solid. It wasn't until the final session at the end of 3 months' time, when we worked about an hour a week. And so I say 3 months' time, right? He'd been going to therapy for 25 years. Right. It took a full 10 weeks for us to get through this, or 12 weeks, right? So comparatively, that shows that even though someone can be working on something for decades, come to us in a long period of time is often, 3 months.
That's a great story. I mean, those are great stories, sharing the really fast, and then also, sharing, and it really does just come down to where people are and, what's going on. How do you associate this? Like if someone were thinking about therapy or Erin's team, how would they really know which way to go, or what would be the appropriate thing?
Oh, that's a great question. And this is a very sticky, tricky area. I was actually uninvited from a podcast last year because I had said something about how we are a great alternative and a better option than therapy sometimes, that not all therapy is beneficial or therapeutic. As someone who had gone to therapy almost her entire life, starting as a young child. And I think this distinction of when one versus the other is important, and a really valuable question. A lot of traditional therapy looks to help people cope with their challenges that they're dealing with. So if someone is dealing with lots of perfectionism, procrastination, or being unable to speak their mind, for example, and you go to a traditional therapeutic practice, oftentimes you'll get tools, tactics, strategies to help you cope with your challenge. This is what you need to repeat in your mind. Here's your mantra every morning to repeat to yourself that you are good enough. Here's the technique to take 10 deep breaths before you pick up the phone and calm your nervous system and then push through the resistance. It's all techniques and okay, you have an issue. This is what we're going to do and how you cope with it. What we do at MindFix is we make it so there's nothing left to cope with. This fellow that I worked with, that I just shared the story with you about, he didn't have to push through the fear anymore. The fear wasn't there. By the last day, he's like, Erin, I just picked up the phone. I didn't think about it. And I had the most beautiful phone call.
How does that happen, Erin? Tell me, how does that happen that it's just not there anymore?
It is because we act according to what we believe to be true. If we're able to get rid of the beliefs that it's not safe for me to ask for what I want, I will be hurt if I speak up. People don't want to hear what I have to say. If we get rid of all that stuff, which we did for him, right? Those were his beliefs or beliefs that were keeping him terrified. And those are truly gone. Not like mindset program in a box, write out the opposite, cross it off, and then suddenly your belief is gone, but truly gone. Like Santa Claus isn't real gone. If those aren't there, everything else down the line changes effortlessly and with ease. That's where the transformation happens, not gradual change, not incremental change, but true transformation happens when you pull the stuff out at the root. And that's why it's possible. So to go back to your therapy question, therapy is really important for people who are dealing with true mental illnesses and challenges. The thing to be aware of, depending on the type of therapy, because there are so many types, is you have to be careful about simply going and venting and just talking and processing. And then you do that for years and years and years and years. And it's like you have a very expensive friend who will listen to you and maybe ask you some questions and give you some insight, because insight doesn't create change. How many people know how to eat healthy or how to work?
Right.
You need more than that.
I mean, I am so blown away by everything you're sharing, but it's so, I've come across so many mindset coaches and so many people that kind of claim to help people with breakthroughs and mindset. But the reason I reached out to you to be on this show is because, I've been seeing what you've been doing, and the results that you're getting people are absolutely phenomenal. And they're over and over and over again. Like there's no access. So you're clearly doing something so different from everyone else out there. So if anyone sees what you're doing, it's easy to say, oh my gosh, she's the person. But how do you distinguish yourself from like the mindset coaches that are out there? And there are a dime a dozen out there.
Yes.
Not to offend any mindset coaches, but they are.
Sure. And I don't think I'm definitely not the only person out in the world like doing this work. Like I stand on the shoulders of giants and have created my own work from what I've learned from other people. It's not like there are some people who channel stuff, right? And they wake up and it's their idea. There are other people who do work around beliefs and transformation. And I know there are certain hypnotherapists out there that get incredible results too. So I'm definitely not the only one, but I definitely do have something that works really well. And to answer your question about how we differentiate ourselves from kind of mindset coaches, it's a tricky question because we don't like to think about ourselves as mindset coaches. Mm-hmm. A coach teaches, a coach trains, a coach helps guide someone, in a certain direction. Whereas a lot of what we do is help. It's almost like we're a bit more like surgeons, and that we come in, we figure out what the problem is, we identify it, and we extract it, subtract it.
Oh, that's what I do in businesses. Yeah.
And send people on their way.
What is your problem here? And let's fix it. Let's get to the root of it. Yeah.
Well, instead of the addition of strategies and teaching and tactics, and instead of more, here's what you need to do, line up with us. We're like, you know what? This is going to be the least amount of work you've ever done in your life. All we're going to do is 1 to 3 hours of work, depending on which program you are each week. And we're going to sit there and we're going to subtract the stuff that's getting in your own way. Mm-hmm. And if you're expecting homework and videos and trainings, we're sorry, we don't have them. We're just going to do a little bit of work every week, and you're going to notice the shifts within the first 1 to 3 weeks, and it starts happening. So the difference really is it's the subtraction that we do compared to the addition and the teaching and the training and the learning that most mindset coaches provide.
And do you think that are they really getting to the root, or are they just sort of like giving the tools to cope? Like
we see a lot of people who have done all of those programs, and a lot of people get insight, and they come to us going, I think I know where this comes from. My dad, beating me a lot when I'm
more self-aware, but they don't know how to fix it.
So they have the awareness, which is great. Oftentimes people have learned some brilliant tools to manage and cope with their symptoms. They're meditating, which allows them to be less reactive and to be in the moment and increase their emotional intelligence. They may have tools about how to, nonviolent communication. And this is how I don't get triggered because I speak to my wife in this way. Or I have this trick that I think about when I go up on stage before I give a public, a speech. But I'm still terrified underneath. But I still do feel angry with my wife. But the things are still there, and I have to calm myself down. So they have these tools, and they're managing, and they're coping. But when you get triggered, or when the stress levels rise, or when you have another child, the business grows, and you start adding to the stressors, when the core root issues are still there, this stuff comes back.
Yes, over and over and over again. Right. Wow. Amazing, amazing work that you're doing. So one more question, because I want to value your time, but you talk about the magic question. So tell me, let's talk about that a little bit. What is that?
It's my favorite thing. I use it 100 times a week.
Leave this to the end. So
love it. So oftentimes when people have a conversation with me or listen to a podcast that I've been on or read some of my Facebook posts, watch our webinar, whatever it is, when people have their initial interaction, one of the things that they learn for the first time, they discover that, whoa, maybe the challenges that I'm having and the difficulties that I'm facing, maybe it's not just because that's how I am. Maybe it's not just my personality. Maybe I don't have to deal with this the rest of my life. And that possibility presents itself. Mm-hmm. And they discover that maybe I am stuck because of some beliefs down here that are kind of at the root. Mm-hmm. That's an interesting possibility. So when people discover that and they go, I wonder if I could figure out what's causing me to be stuck. The miracle question, the magic question, the $1 million gold nugget question that I invite people who are starting to explore this possibility is this. What would you have to believe to be true in order to keep experiencing this over and over again? So anytime we get stuck, we are experiencing some type of emotional or behavioral pattern. Right? This is not something where you have a one-off explosion because you had the worst day ever and you yelled at your friend and no, we're talking about the patterns when we're really stuck, when we keep repeating things. There's a reason why. And you can start to do your own detective work and figure that out when you ask yourself, what would I have to believe to be true in order to keep experiencing this over and over again? So someone who's dealing with like the fellow I talked to you about, dealing with a fear of speaking up or getting on the phone, if he sat and asked himself, what in the world would make me scared to pick up the phone and ask for a favor from my friends, he could start to map out on a piece of paper, I am scared that something really bad is going to happen if I ask for what I want. Okay, keep going. I have a belief that I am a burden to other people, right? And you start to create this map when you ask yourself that question over and over. What else would I have to believe? What else is there? You can create a list. And what happens is at the end, you'll have an initial seed list of literally the root causes of why you're acting in a way that doesn't serve you, of why you have a counterproductive behavioral or emotional pattern. Once you have that, you can look at it and go, it's the most insightful, empowering list you've ever created, because you can go, you know what? This list is why I'm acting this way and I'm stuck. And when you realize it's just a list on a piece of paper, that's the first step to realizing you can change. Get rid of this list. You can have extraordinary, rapid transformation. It's not in your DNA. You're not just the type of person who's scared to pick up the phone. It's just this list. And that's something that can be worked with, which is quite empowering for people who feel doomed that it's just how they are and there's no change possible for them.
Wow, that's so incredibly powerful. It's just how you are. Deal with it. It's just how you are, right? And how many times, I bet if we all really sit down and think about all the ways that we struggle with things that we take for granted. It's just the way I am. It's just what the way I've always been. I bet there's a lot of things like you said, we could all work on and never quit. It never stops, right? Wow. Powerful, powerful stuff. This has been amazing. Thank you so much. And I have to say, and I'm not quite ready to say what it was, but I actually did have a breakthrough with something from listening to one of Erin's podcasts and doing exactly what she said. There was something that I was stuck with in my life. And I did that whole reverse engineer thing, found out the root of that problem. And once I identified it and I started seeing all the behaviors that happened after that, it was like all of a sudden it was gone. It was amazing. It was amazing. And that was from a podcast, Erin. So Thank you for that. She's fantastic. If you have anything, if you're stuck, if you have anything that you need a breakthrough with, or something that you've struggled with, or something that you keep repeating over and over and over again, I guess would be a good way to say it, that isn't serving you in a good way, reach out to her and her team. I cannot say enough about all the work they're doing, the lives they're changing. It's phenomenal. So, Erin, anything else you want to add before we wrap it up?
I just like to leave people and plant seeds and let them know that change doesn't have to be hard. Change can happen for you. You are not broken. Change doesn't have to be difficult, and it doesn't have to take a long time. Like I really like to invite people to play with those possibilities.
Is that like music to everyone's ears? I love it. Powerful, powerful stuff. So Erin, thank you for being here. This has been fun. She's phenomenal. Follow her on Facebook. I don't know if you're on LinkedIn or not, but I know she's all over Facebook. You can find her. And it sounds like she's got an amazing team. It's been fun to watch her business grow like crazy over the past couple of years. So you are truly gifted, and you are doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. So congratulations for all of your success.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to make her ask and leave one strategy with all of you entrepreneurs out there. What was the one business thing that you did that had the greatest impact on your business? So we know you're brilliant at what you do, but how about from a business standpoint?
You mean of all time? Like forever since I became an entrepreneur?
Yeah. I mean, you've been an entrepreneur for a lot of years, and she had a business before this business, actually. So
well, you're going to like this. I think you might like my answer. When I had one business prior to MindFix, and it was a web consulting agency. And thinking about the 20 years of which I've been an entrepreneur, I would say the single most impactful investment and strategy that I implemented was making the jump into doing sales training. When I did that, probably about 8 years into.
Okay, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, into my entrepreneurship, into my life, into like when I had started my first business, I learned how to communicate with people. I learned how to understand people. I learned how to be in relationship with people. Mm-hmm. I learned about psychology. I learned everything that it has impacted how I've structured my business and how I train people to be on the calls. It has filtered through how I show up in my life. It was definitely one of the most impactful things that I've ever done in my entire life. And interestingly enough, it was learning how to do sales.
You know, I always say that if you can do marketing and sales, you'll never be out of business. And that's really true. If you can close sales, and it's there's skills that people can learn, but there are also skills that people a lot of times want to pass off to other people as a business owner, as an entrepreneur. And you need to learn those basic fundamentals before you can even build the team that can do things the way they need to be done for your culture, for your business. Do you agree with that? Absolutely. Sometimes I've seen that and I've seen that in myself too. We come to an area where we feel inadequate or uncomfortable, and we're like, let's look for somebody to do that. Right.
It's a delegation, but it's more of this abdication where it's like, I don't even want to know about it. You take care of it. I don't see it over here. And there's a difference between understanding your strengths and weaknesses and saying, I'm going to get the basics. I'm going to understand how this works and what's going on so that I can at least delegate it to the right person. Yeah. Make sure I know what success looks like, and have intelligent conversations about it.
Yes, absolutely. I do think you have to have the basics as a leader, as the CEO of your company. You have to know at least the ins and outs of every job. You don't have to be the expert, right? I'm not going to sit there and be a CPA or know taxes, but you have to know how to read balance sheets, and you have to know how to read your financials, and you have to know the basic things that are going to be the drivers in your business, and to put the right people on the right seats on the bus. And if you can't do those things, or you don't understand what makes those things work in a business, you can't be successful hiring people for those roles, because they'll just take advantage or pull the wool over your eyes, or you'll burn up a lot of money and time and all of that. So no, I just had to, we've talked so much about everything. All this applies to business, but I would just know that you've built businesses. And so I thought it would be interesting for you to share that. So I'm glad you brought that up because I talk about that all the time. Get good at sales, get good at marketing. So Erin, thank you so much for being my guest. It's been a pleasure. It's been a lot of fun having you on. So until next time, everyone, you have an amazing day, and thank you for watching another episode of The Strategic Edge. Erin, thanks. Bye-bye.